Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Shop Thursday. Hey, welcome to the first day of fall, too. It doesn't officially arrive until after 9 o'clock this evening, but hey, look at that. Look at the sun shining through on those trees. There's blue sky up above. You know, the only thing that's really missing is the full blooming colors of fall. But they're just around the corner, because it's nice, it's cool, it's comfortable outside. The wind is blowing, so you might hear the wind blowing through the trees, the chickens doing their thing, the dogs barking in the background. You're going to hear it all today. The other thing is, you got to grab your cup of coffee, take a big sip. Yep, Steeler mug today because the Steelers are on Thursday Night Football. So if you have Amazon Prime, you're in good shape. If you don't, find somebody that does and watch it on their computer or have it transported over to your TV if it's a smart TV. Okay, hey, what about our passage that we want to talk about here as we sit and enjoy the first day of fall? Well, it's from Jeremiah, the 32nd chapter. This is the alternate Old Testament reading that some churches are following. And you have to know this. I'm going to be talking a little more about this on Saturday. But the order of chapters in Jeremiah is totally disastrous. In other words, if you went to the book of Jeremiah expecting to read, starting with chapter 1 all the way through the end, the 50-some chapters that are there, you would expect that, okay, it's all in nice chronological order. You know what? Ain't happening, folks. Just doesn't happen that way. This book was put together over so many years that hodgepodge, this, that, and the other was tacked onto it. It's absolutely crazy. It's mind-boggling, and scholars are constantly updating themselves as they uncover new archaeological evidence, this, that, and the other. Okay, we're not going down that rabbit hole right now. You can do it. Just Google chronological order of Jeremiah, and you will go crazy. I mean, it is totally nuts. But what about our passage that we have for today? This is all you need to know. This is at a time where the powerhouse Babylon had arisen, and they're kind of snuffing out Assyria, which had been the previous powerhouse of the region, and they're pushing in on Israel and Judah. Now, Israel had already kind of been taken over by Assyria. And so when the Babylonians took over Assyria, of course they took over Israel at the same time, but now going further south into Judah, this is where it gets a little interesting. It was right about the year 598 BCE in which the first little push into the area came from Babylon. And this is what you need to know. It's from this period until 587 that we're talking about, but our specific passage is going to come from 587, just about the time that Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon finally sacked Jerusalem and absolutely destroyed it, decimated it. Now some people have been carried off into exile already in 598, and then another king was set up on the throne, Zedekiah. He wasn't the best king in the world. He was pretty lousy, put it that way. And this is where Jeremiah, who now has been prophesying for 40-some years, ends up prophesying a little bit more, and he's still railing on Zedekiah, how bad of a king he is and how unfaithful he is to God. And Zedekiah gets kind of fed up with him, but he doesn't want to do away with Jeremiah. Why? Because he's watched it progress all through his life. Jeremiah, as much as he mouths off against the kings, is right. He's totally correct in his assessment of who they are, what they're doing, and what God's going to be doing to them. So he's seen it all. He didn't want to get rid of Jeremiah, but he was getting a little tired of him mouthing off in the streets, so he put him in prison. Well, our passage for today is a rather strange one. You have to read it. It's in chapter 32, verses 6 through 15. And it's a real simple story in which Jeremiah is in jail, and he has a cousin come up to him and say, hey, I want you to buy my land, buy my fields. Why? Well, he's in some sort of trouble. financial trouble possibly. He needs to unload it. And the way you do that is by law, by the Torah, you are to go to your relatives to give them the first opportunity to buy your land. Why? It keeps it in the family. You see that? It's kind of an interesting thing. If you find yourself in financial difficulty, go ahead, sell your property, but keep it in the family. So he does that, and Jeremiah does that. But then he goes through this whole procedure of, hey, make sure that all these records are official, that they're put in jars and sealed shut, because, and this is the deal, because we are once again going to inhabit this land, and then we'll have all these property deeds to show that, hey, we actually own it. Yeah, what he's pronouncing is a word of hope. The prophet Jeremiah, remember, he's the weeping prophet who is just heartbroken over what's happening to his land and to his people. He now gives his prophecy that's played out in actuality, in life, in real life. He is buying land and tucking away the deeds so that at a later time, when the people return from exile, because now they're being hauled off right at this time, as they return from exile, they can show, hey, here's the records. This is my land. It's a word of hope given to the people. Now, what does that say to you and to me? Well, you just have to kind of look at it and say, not exactly sure, but we could say that God is always working out his will in our lives in rather strange ways, as we're doing here, but also for the future. God is a God of the future. And even though things look bad for the people of Judah right now as they're being hauled off in exile, there is the promise that things will turn around. And you can read all through the prophet Jeremiah. We're here in chapter 32, get into 33, and all the other chapters a little further ahead. Every now and then, there's a glimmer of hope that the prophet has been giving out to us. And even though the chapters aren't in chronological order, it's still a good way to look at it and read those words of hope and make them your own. Make them your words of hope. Because God, when it says in the scriptures that he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, he is. He gives words of hope to you and me in the midst of our difficult times. All right, I'm telling you, I just may end up staying out here all day, but I can't, because there's Bible study and there's a couple other items I need to get done today. So I will be doing those on this glorious first day of fall. God's blessings be with you.